today that Rod Rosenstein suggested that he secretly record Trump and discuss the 25th Amendment. Suggested last year as Deputy Attorney General 2 weeks into his stint that he secretly record the president to expose the chaos consuming the administration and discuss recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office for being unfit. Now, I don't know if this bears relationship to Trump's tweets this morning. The people who are part of the X-Ray FM community, my home station in Portland, Oregon, and shout out to our folks, love y'all. You may have heard me say this before. When Donald Trump tweets something crazy, what we urge is not immediate reaction, but it's to take a breath, scan the room, and see what else is going on. This morning, Trump questioned the credibility of Dr. Blasey Ford, the accuser of Brett Kavanaugh. He could have done that on any day. It undoubtedly, as soon as he tweets that, causes a firestorm. Everybody's got to respond to the president. Hey, don't shame accusers, President. We are required morally, politically, rhetorically to say so. And I thought at that moment, I was like, uh-oh, Jeff, try to follow your own rule. Take a breath, scan the room, see what else is going on. And I didn't know anything that was going on in particular that seemed, I shouldn't say out of the ordinary, every darn thing these days out of the ordinary, but that answered my question. So I said, well, maybe it's just he was watching Fox and Friends and tweeted something on the bathroom, whatever. But then I see today, on the last day of fall, on the fall before the fall, the story in the New York Times of Rod Rosenstein suggesting that he should secretly record Trump and also discussed the 25th Amendment to remove the president. And giving credit to the producer of this show during the break, who said, I wonder if Trump will use this Friday, when everybody is paying attention to other stuff, to fire Rod Rosenstein. That's a good question. Right now, let us spend a few more minutes on, and there will be many more minutes spent after that to be sure, but we're also going to be talking about impeachment and more than impeachment and the calls that people have been waiting very patiently. And thank you for waiting patiently. We have one more guest that we're honored to be joined by, Karthik Ganapathy of MoveOn.org. Karthik, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. What is MoveOn doing with respect to the Kavanaugh appointment and hearings process? What are you hearing out there and anything you anticipate? I like to ask 3 questions at once because it makes my job dumber. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me start from the last one first. Well, what we're hearing is just, a lot of people, as I'm sure you're hearing as well, a lot of people are really outraged and really upset by what we're seeing in response to the allegations that Dr. Blasey Ford has bravely put out there. This basic premise that the hearing next week should be a trial of the veracity of her claims, or the sort of starting from an assumption of she's lying. I think that really rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And these aren't, this isn't just sort of a partisan Democratic issue, right? We're seeing public opinion research. I think an NBC poll yesterday showed that most Americans now, or more Americans, oppose the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh than support him, which wasn't the case 2 months ago. So, look, I think Americans believe her. And the problem here is that Republicans in the Senate clearly don't. Right? We're seeing Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, say that he told the Values Voter Summit this morning that he intends to approve Judge Kavanaugh, regardless of what happened. Right? This isn't a good faith effort. This isn't a good faith.
And do we have reporting on his comments of his rationale? Was it that she's lying, or she's confused, or it doesn't matter, or if it matters, that he's better now?
I don't know, and I don't even know which one I'd prefer in that situation. Right? They're all pretty awful. If you look at it, assume that she's telling the truth and ignore it anyway. That's bad. If you assume she's lying, that's bad. There's no good way to explain the actions here. Where you have obviously the same person who delayed the confirmation of Merrick Garland for a year, suddenly imbued by this sudden sense of urgency over someone who, you know, pretty likely committed sexual assault, you know, in his youth. I mean, this is a serious thing. So I think to answer your question, well, we're hearing a lot of concern from people over the state of the situation. And so we're trying to figure out how best to organize. Obviously, it's a fast-moving situation. We're now hearing that the hearing might be on Wednesday instead of Monday. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how we can organize people, how we can you know, organize sort of a national show of solidarity for them.
And I want to talk strategies for a moment, and as
Sure.
Move On wrestles with this, because I don't know what percentage of Move On readers and clickers and movement members are Republicans. Okay, and my hunch is the percentage is somewhat slow. You might know the answer. I also go ahead.
Very low.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Yeah, it's very, very low. I think these are. No, I mean, I think there are a few, and I don't have the exact statistical breakdown, but very low.
So and we know right now the decision is up to the Republicans. I mean, yeah, there's some Democrats who could vote along with them, but the decision is up to them. So how do you think most in terms of, okay, how do we elevate the discussion so that some of that might bleed into media that does reach some Republicans and some Republicans might reach some other Republicans? Is it more about being prepared for the coming election to make sure that there is an appropriate national reaction to what the Republicans decide to do? How do you think that through strategically?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think we're trying to like focus right now on just stopping the confirmation, right? We're trying to focus on this like 1 day, 1 week at a time. So we're not really thinking about November yet, except to say that we think, you know, it would be disastrous. I think for the Republicans to do this over the objections of most of the American people. I think that's clearly not just bad on a moral level. It's not just bad on a substantive level. It's also bad on a political level. So I think there's that. But as sort of a political matter, right now we're looking at focusing on the fight over the next week or so to do everything we can to stop the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh. Obviously, there's a bunch of groups we're working in partnership with, like NARAL, and they've been pressing and pushing on this issue on Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation in general for weeks. And obviously that fight has intensified in recent days as these allegations have come forward. So I think for our part, we're really just to talk strategy. I mean, the strategy is basically to focus on this 1 day at a time and do everything we can to stop this fight, because we're not taking it for granted that this is a done deal, right? McConnell may want to confirm this. He may tell the Values Voter Summit that he's going to get this guy confirmed, but we're not taking that as a done deal. There are a lot of people with misgivings about this nominee. There are a lot of people who clearly believe what Christine Blasey Ford has put out there, and you know, I mean, I think there are a lot of people with serious concerns about the Supreme Court nominee. So this to me is an incredibly winnable fight. We just need to get in gear and stay engaged over the next week or so.
And how do you? And we're about to go to break. How do you think about that winning? Is it as simple as Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski? Is it Jeff Flake? Is it some name that hasn't been said? You got 8 seconds.
Yeah, it's all of those.
Yeah.
It's all of those names and then a bunch of others too.
Thank you so much. Karthik Ganapathy of MoveOn.org. I'd ask where to go, but I'm guessing it's MoveOn.org.
That's right.
Thanks so much for being with us. This is the Thom Show.